Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Is it warm inside?
Yeah.
What's the temperature?
We've got a good temperature, I think.
It's alright. It's not bad.
Okay, excellent.
This is the gang. Do you want to say hello?
Hi everybody.
Hello.
How's it going?
It's pretty good.
Are they all pumped, do you think?
Pumped?
As well?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Can we have like a formal introduction, please?
A formal, yes. Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Marcus Oakley. And is that it? Anything else?
I don't know. Where are you?
I'm currently in Edinburgh, where I live now. I lived in London for 20 years and then moved up to Scotland. Anyone from Scotland? Yeah, Scotland. Yeah.
And we got some Londoners as well, I think.
Oh, some Londoners. I've not eaten these yet, but I bought these in the shop. Can you see them? It's like they're like cheesy macaroni, and it's like this guy. Look, can you see him?
He's got a dog as well.
That's what they eat up here, you know. Anyway, sorry.
That's fine. Can you tell us a bit about what you do?
Okay, what I do. Okay, that's a very good question. I would say I have, since I graduated 20 years ago, I've been working in the creative industries. So originally I worked in fashion for 3 years as a textile designer and t-shirt designer, and then after that I worked as an illustrator, and also at the same time always had a practice as an artist and made work for myself or exhibitions or whatever, for whatever reason I feel like. And sometimes I make music badly. I like walking.
Yeah.
I recently I've kind of got into baking. So here's a loaf of bread I made today.
Nice. That looks delicious, man.
Yeah, it is. I'm looking forward to getting into that.
Yeah. What are you gonna have on it?
Well, you could have all sorts, couldn't you? Maybe some cheesy macaroni.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Yeah.
And do all these things connect?
Yes, because it's me. I know that sounds ridiculous, but what I mean is that trying to work as someone, I guess you call it the commercial world and the kind of art world, but they're very different. Obviously, the connection is that I'm doing all of those things, and that they all communicate to each other. So, something that I'm doing myself for my own work might then go over to a commercial project and vice versa. So they kind of help each other.
Yeah.
These things.
Okay. Can you have you got any other things that you could show us? Any other
Physically?
artifacts? Yeah. Any other treasures knocking around?
Okay. Yeah, I've got a few treasures. We've got this really nice plant here.
It's good.
It's really nice, isn't it?
It's
really like. But what we need to do, need to make sure to twist it so then, because it's grown that way, isn't it? So
Yeah.
we need to turn it so it grows. So there's a lot of work in that at the moment. Project not diagonal.
Yeah. Have you got No, sorry.
This is a paper jug, so you could, that kind of thing. What else we got here? We've got this guy. He's all right, isn't he? Look. There's the sun, everybody. Hey, this guy. I bought this in a charity shop. Look at him. Look at that. Look.
He's lovely. What's he made out of?
Yeah. He's ceramic.
Right. Lovely.
He's lovely, yeah. And actually, I've got one more thing, which is this mug. I was trying to do this mug. So this lady, she's like, "What's going on there?" and then there's this guy, like this pooch. What the?
Where's this mug from, Marcus?
Well, it's in the kitchen here. I found it in the kitchen.
Okay, nice. And what about that hanging behind you?
I don't know what that is actually. It feels like it could be some kind of animal skin.
Right. Okay.
But it's quite nice, isn't it?
Yeah, it's nice to have in the house. Are objects important to you? Artifacts?
They are. They are. I think it's been interesting because at the moment I was telling you briefly, Matt, that I moved up to Scotland. So I've got flour on my computer now from the bread. Sorry.
Cyber
Moved up to Scotland. All my belongings are currently in storage because we're still trying to find a permanent home. So it's really fascinating not to have these things. You know, like we think they're kind of mundane. We go to charity shops and we go on holidays and we buy these objects that we kind of, I don't know, at that point we think we need them. But actually, when you don't have them, you realise how kind of important they kind of are.
Yeah.
They kind of centre you in a way, or they secure you. Strange objects. But I guess some things I've got are like from deceased family members or gifts or things that people have I've made, objects I've made, and so you kind of you curate your own space with these objects and plants and things like that. So I think they kind of secure us in a strange way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, is that the same in your studio? Do you have to surround yourself in like artifacts and like objects that somehow help you make connections between your interests in a creative way?
Well, I think that's what I mean. At the moment, I don't have them. I have like a bookshelf with things that maybe Edinburgh is really good for charity shops. So things that I've collected, like books and things, but I don't really have all that stuff. So it's been it's fascinating to just use that creative energy and make things. So that's why I'll make this. It's a bit wobbly, but I'll make this. If you can see, this thing.
Yeah.
To make me feel happy, it's like a little sculpture. So I've started to make things to decorate, to kind of centre my vibes.
Yeah. Okay.
But then all.
Oh no.
It's alright.
It's funny how that really works against your wallpaper as well. It's nice.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
And your handkerchief as well. Can we have a look at that?
Yeah, I made a handkerchief to look sort of respectable.
Yeah, no, it's working.
Is it working?
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent.
Going back to that sculpture, and interestingly, before you talked about being an artist and an illustrator, because I want to show some of your work and talk a bit more about the kind of work you make and the things you're trying to do with your work. But do you want to talk about the two things as separate?
Well, no, we could talk. I'll tell you, the way to put them all together, which is really simple, which I'll show. Which I know you've got images, but it's. If you can see, can you see this?
Yeah.
Okay, it's just lines, isn't it? It's lines.
Yeah.
So, see the way I'm kind of sort of lucky because I'm not art college anymore. My work can be quite simplistic. Because I know obviously for you, Matt, and all the students, it's very important. Like content is incredibly important to what you do, and it's important to me. But for me, the thing that connects everything is lines. And I know that sounds very simplistic, but actually lines for me, I still feel like I'm a student of the line because a line can be anything. It could be abstract, it could be pictorial, it could be quick, it could be slow, it can be coloured. And so for me, that connects my entire practice is the line. That's why this toilet roll is covered in lines.
Yeah.
And but sometimes it doesn't really matter what it is, it's the physicality. It's really fascinating to make a line, and all my work, all my drawings, that for me they're almost like sculptures. They have to, or like a building. I build up my drawings so they're completely balanced within the space that I use. So that's what connects both practices.
Okay, that's interesting. So when you're making a drawing, is there like a sequence or a process of thinking that takes place when you're working on something?
Well, I'd say no and yes. Yes and no, because the things I think when you're doing it, like say for everybody in that room, it's not like when you're thinking about your drawing, your brain isn't. You're not like kind of reading an essay or a thesis in your head when you're drawing. It's just automatic because you know how to do it.
Yeah.
But talking about it now, I'm able to understand how and why I do it. And how I've. But literally, like I was saying, I'm still a student of the line. It's interesting talking to all of you because I graduated 20 years ago, but I still don't feel I've got all the answers. But it'd be boring if I did.
No, absolutely. But then I'm interested in, and this is what I feel when I see your line drawing or just any of your artwork, is that it strikes me that you have obviously learnt a lot in these 20 years about your own relationship with line and the way you use it and the way it feels like you have an intuitive relationship with how you make pictures in response to the world or in response to your content.
Yeah, well, that is because here's a pen, and it's because when I make contact with the surface, I'm completely 100% about it. Like it doesn't matter if it goes wrong. Like I've got complete confidence about it. I feel very relaxed and happy to make contact with the service. I'm not nervous about making contact with anything, and so that's what helps really.
Right.
You know, I'm not like kind of a bit frightened, or I'll do anything, but I'm not nervous about it. I don't know what's going to happen, but I don't. Maybe that's those 20 years.
Yeah.
That's helped me to get to that point. You know,
And
every day I'm thinking of why I'm doing it and what it's about. You know.
Have you had to work hard to keep yourself in that frame of mind, or are there strategies or things that you do to kind of keep those vibes positive?
Well, I think that then goes outside drawing. It's about life, isn't it, and about what makes you happy as a human being. So that could be eating like nice bread, or listening to really good music, or walking, and I think they're all the things that will then make will make you make the work. Make you work or bad work. You know, being a happy person. So for me, a long time ago, I became very interested in the Beach Boys. I love the Beach Boys, and so I was really intrigued about, well, how can I be really interested to try and make work that made me feel like the Beach Boys did. So a lot of my work it's about good vibrations and positive vibes basically, and trying to spread the vibes.
Yeah, okay, no, I'll go with that. I mean, I'm going to just bring up some images so we can have a look at some pictures as we're talking. Let me see, but it'd be nice to still see your face. Your face is there. We've got a smaller version.
That's okay.
Do you have battles with work as well, though? I feel like what we're saying is that you just do things and it doesn't matter, but there must be like...
No, I don't have battles, but it's accepting that's fine. You know, that's okay. Of course, it's really. I'm sure all of you feel like it's really good to make a mistake. It's not a problem, is it? It's like you just have another go, and sometimes it can be a real effort and energy to be able to do that basically. But it's still something I enjoy. But I'm not a robot. I'm not a superhero.
Yeah,
so,
no, sure. And I'm interested in that process. I mean, that if you're happy to make mistakes, that's cool. But there must be like a system with which you evaluate your work, or especially some of your things that feel like more finished pieces. Because I want to talk about your observational drawing or your kind of live reportage sketchbook drawing. But also when I look at things that seem like quite finished, either you've turned them into vectors or you've got pure shape in there. There must be a way with which you say this is finished or this is ready.
It is. No, it is. I think. Well, a lot of that you would know, but it's to do with time schedules. Really, that's all the time we've got. But I think it's because a lot of it's based down to my studies and what I've always been interested in. I'm really fascinated about how art. Here's art, and here's design. I should have had them. And how these come together basically. And so. Finished work has a real sensibility of graphic design, because I studied graphics and I studied fine art. I did this kind of degree at Camberwell, it's called joint honours, so you could do different things. So 1 minute I'm doing typesetting, next minute I'm making video art or oil painting. So for me, I'm really fascinated how we bring art and design together, because sometimes it seems they're quite separate things. Or people in those camps can tend to put them in separate places, but I want to see them come together. And historically, there's loads of amazing people that have done that and still do that, basically.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's nice. I'm just looking at your... you seem to have had a little phase of like muscle guys and girls recently.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Shall I talk about that?
Yeah, where's that come from?
Right, well, I don't really know where it came from. It doesn't come across creepy, does it?
A bit.
Okay.
No,
well,
super charming.
It's to do with drawing. Like, it's really fun. Like, maybe you should all try it. Try looking on the internet. I know it's a bit like looking for bodybuilders, but try drawing these people. They're really fascinating. Drawing bodybuilders, and it's like, for me, they're almost like this amazing. They are like superheroes, or they're like I don't know what it's like to be a bodybuilder, but I'm really intrigued by them. Like why they want to do it and how they can change their body. Like most humans don't look like that, do they?
No.
So it's really intriguing. So that's as far as I can think of why I'm into it really. But I have got on my desktop. I've got a lot of images of muscly people.
That's
you know.
okay. Nice. I mean, this is an interesting point because I also want to talk to you about your ideas. And, we're looking through your portfolio, and I've been looking at your work for ages, and I know that there are reoccurring themes or ideas that you revisit or you spend a bit of time exploring.
Yeah.
But they often seem to be like your interpretation of something real world.
Yeah.
What do you think makes things? How do you identify things that you're interested in? Sorry.
No, that's fine. Obviously, I think that's the point of an artist, isn't it? To take the world and reimagine it in a different way that hopefully other people can enjoy and find interesting. So for me, it can be really random, the things that I'm interested in, because like I was saying before, nowadays it doesn't. My content is because it's about the line. So a lot of the themes, they are definitely selective, but sometimes that's what I mean. Really, in a way, like bodybuilders doesn't really fit into what I do, but in a way, it's because it's about the line. Like I'm saying, I'm really fascinated. Like what it's trying to challenge that line, so you're not kind of boring yourself.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm gonna draw bodybuilders. Why I'm gonna do that? Well, I'll give it a go, basically. You know.
Yeah.
And but there are selective things, and I think it's like everyone in that room. It's like your childhood and your experience in life will make you attracted visually to the things that you want to make work about.
Yeah. Okay. So can you identify things from your own kind of visual world as a kid, maybe, or from your early interests that you think are still resonating or coming back to?
Well, I just think I've always enjoyed trying to make things, and I'm sure it's the same for all of you. That like when you're a child, you just want to make things because somehow you've got the hands. You enjoy trying to construct things. If it's trying to like make something to eat or make a scribble or something like that. And so I think that stays. I think anyone who's creative, that stays with that childlike. For some reason, we still have that. We still want to make things. For other people, it doesn't really matter to them anymore. But for us, we still care about it. So I just like making things. It's the physicality of trying to work out how to create something a certain way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that leads quite nicely onto your kind of your three-dimensional stuff. I mean, is there much to talk about there, or is that just a continuation of your drawing?
No, it is. It's exactly. So for me, that's not like I was saying. It's all the same. So like I said, I don't know. Like it's like that or something. Then it's like maybe really it'd be fun to turn that into something 3D. But it's the same. It's 3. But for me, a 2D drawing feels like something 3D because I'm trying to construct these drawings as sculptures.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So it's pretty similar. It's just that it exists in a 3D space, and I enjoy the physicality of trying to build these things and work out how they will sit in the space.
Yeah.
I guess the difference is there isn't an edge. A piece of paper stops, whereas if you make something in a 3D space, then it has as much space as it needs to kind of exist.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, the other thing I think, and I'm looking at some of your pots or your 3D things here and it struck me for a while with your work that there's, as well as the line, there's also the tension or the harmony between the elements you work with. And you just mentioned the frame, and maybe that relates to composition a bit, but do you feel like that's also something you've spent a lot of time becoming experienced or kind of skillful with, is how you create tension and balance between the visual elements in your work?
Yeah, I think, going back to the line, I think it's really important for everyone to think about line weight. Because I think, like the thickness of a line and the speed of a line. So it's the same thing. It's like you're building up, same thing. This is a perfect example, going back to this drawing again, because it's got like, it's got quick lines and slow lines and round lines. And so that's it really. Then you can kind of go that way, I suppose, isn't it, basically?
Yeah, you can.
But it's trying to build up. That's what I'm saying. It's almost like like a building, because you're trying to build up tension.
Yeah.
So for me drawing this, it feels very well balanced and structured and harmonious. Like if it was an object, if it existed, it would be able to exist because it would balance.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So all the drawings. I don't know what else we've got here.
It sounds like the proportions of a life drawing in a way, like.
Yeah, or a plant. There's a plant. I've drawn that, but it's like it needs to work. It has to, obviously it's quite good because the plant dictates its own structure.
Yeah.
So it's me then trying to like work with the structure of the plant to make it work basically.
Yeah.
But it's still, that's a really rubbish drawing of a plant. It's pretty basic, but it hopefully it looks like one, and we can understand that, and it kind of works.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I think that's really like a good summary of how I understand the effectiveness of your work. Like this,
Yeah.
I mean, it leads
And
into.
then there's this guy. Like, I mean, what's that about? Why am I drawing him? I don't know. He's on his like, because it's like, why not? I suppose why not? Isn't it?
Yeah, no, fair enough. The drawings you did with Nick in the Lake District, and
Yes.
also I think you have some reportage pieces or some observational drawings.
Book, yes.
Oh, nice. Are they in a book? Is that a published thing?
That was
Nice. To me, that was a really good. Those pieces were a really good summary of your practice, and again, very much like your plant studies, is that it's real world stuff and it's based on something that exists, and as you were just describing, is engineered and structural.
Yeah.
But the way you translate it is kind of like hyper, kind of imaginative or playful. Like it's very brave the way that you've been translating things that you've seen in the real world. Do you? Again, I don't know if this is a question or more of a statement, but where's that come from? How have you got to this point of being able to draw landscapes like this?
Well, I think but when you're kind of taught that, not taught that stuff, but it's almost like I'm trying to say about the line. I'll just try and draw it. But the thing is, like you were saying before, maps are interesting. Is that there'll be certain rules that I'll try and use to draw that. Like, especially trying to look at a landscape. It's like, well, how do I make my work work in that landscape? I don't want my work to look like some kind of cheesy. Well, maybe that'd be quite nice. That's something you see in a charity shop, but it has to. The whole thing has to have a language. So for the stuff in the Lake District, so here it is. Yeah, so trying to draw this. Okay, so actually, what that was about, because I'm really obsessed with maps. I love maps.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking, I really love. You like maps because you go walking and stuff, don't you? So
sure, yeah.
like all those beautiful like ordnance survey maps,
Yeah.
and all the contours. What's it called? The not typography.
Cartography.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, basically. But so within that map, more lines together will mean a steepness So basically, that's what I took the idea of contour lines and maps, and then put that within my drawing.
Nice. Okay.
But also using thick and thin lines to create like a structure.
Yeah.
So then it kind of works as something. But also for me, it was almost like, because you're drawing a landscape, it becomes abstract. Like we know that's a hill.
Yeah.
But really, when you go like that, then it becomes.
Yeah.
That which is quite nice.
Yeah. And were these drawings reworked at all, or were these done like in a field, in a book?
No, that was it. They were all just drawn. They were all drawn. Like I had a like a drawing board with me and the stuff. So I'm just trying another one. So like this one, that was just a pencil crayons looking down at a lake, basically.
Nice.
But it's like, it's interesting because we're talking about this, and it's like I said before, my brain doesn't think that. It just thinks, I'm trying to look at this hill. How do I draw it? And then I'll just do it.
Yeah.
But it's helpful for me to understand why I've done it that way, isn't it? That seems like a healthy thing.
Yeah.
So it's only afterwards I kind of looked at it and then worked out, or tried to work out why I did it that way.
Yeah. Sure. And I don't want to. Maybe we don't. Maybe it's kind of reductive to over discuss it. Like, I love the fact that it's an intuitive response to the environment. You just do a drawing. But I think what's interesting, and this is where I want to go with the next question, is that this to me feels like your drawing practice. Like, you've been doing this for long enough now that you just have an art practice.
Yeah.
But that this informs your illustration work as well. I want to just talk about it because I think it's very easy to look at all these lovely drawings and just be like, oh man, yes. I really like these drawings. But you also still work with clients and on briefs and
I've got
deadlines.
I've got to bring in the bacon somehow.
Delicious bacon.
Yeah, I don't eat bacon.
No, I mean, did I tell you I've gone veggie as well? And it's,
No? How's that going?
yeah, really good, man. Really
Good,
good.
man. It's good. It's good.
Powerful. Good patties, veggie burgers.
Yeah, man. I like radishes. Radishes are.
I've got a good joke about a radish. Oh, I think you just told me.
Am I going to get it?
Which vegetable is pretty cool?
Right. Okay.
Yeah, see where I'm going. Let's move on.
What?
It's the radish.
Oh, the radish. Okay. Yeah.
Right, so I want to know about whether or not in this bundle of slides, is there something here you can talk about that was like a client asking for a thing and you had to come up with a solution, and you can talk us through that kind of process?
Well, I think a really good example might be the anorak cover.
Right, okay.
Yeah, that's the second picture, isn't it?
Yeah.
Only because it's a funny one, that. In a good way. Can you see it?
Yeah, we've got it on the screen, yeah.
Well, no, it was a really nice brief to have from Anorak magazine to be given a cover, because it's a really fun magazine, and I know you've worked on it as well, Matt, and it's like it's a very positive publication to work for.
Yeah, for sure.
But the brief was dreams, and so that's such a provocative. What's the word? Not for it's such a dreams are very personal, aren't they?
Yeah.
And it's like I didn't want to maybe the first thing you think about is like maybe a child sleeping with a big massive like cloud coming out of its head dreaming, but it was like, well, I don't know if that would make an interesting cover, because I'm trying to think about the idea of a cover and what a cover is about basically. So it was just like a really simple thing about trying to reflect, maybe you're in someone's head and they're dreaming that basically, and that was like a really basic idea, but then just trying to create visually interesting characters, but also it all worked as one unit. So obviously when you looked at it on the shelves, you might want to purchase it basically, because that's the point of illustration and the magazine, is that people are going to buy it basically. So I just found it really interesting trying to do that. And the thing that becomes very different with illustration work is that obviously we're talking about my other practice where you're just drawing, whereas once you turn work into a vector and you turn it into a graphic, like I'll spend hours literally moving something, like that rabbit. I probably spent hours moving it like millimetre down, it gets kind of ridiculous basically, until it exists in its correct space.
Yeah.
But then sometimes I spend so long that in the end, when it's printed, I'm not even sure if it was the right place.
Yeah. You're battling intuition with a process.
Yeah, exactly. Or you spend too long on it. That's as you were saying before. Sometimes you just spend too long on it. But I think it's a tricky one. It doesn't necessarily say much about dreams, But the minute obviously it says dreams on it, people think, well, it could be a dream. And so it was an interesting brief. It was me trying to battle the thing. I didn't want to do the most obvious thing, and that's how it came out.
Yeah. No, and I think that's what makes it successful. I know we've talked a bit about illustration as a discipline and the frustrations with it, but what do you still think as a discipline it's good and interesting? Like can it still be like an exciting practice?
It can. Well, it's up to the illustrator to make it that exciting practice. So for me, I've always been interested in what you do with illustration. I know that sounds pretty stupid, but it's almost like what do you apply it to? And so that I'm really interested if it's a textile or a tea towel or something else that isn't necessarily on paper. It's like, what can we do with this stuff basically, and what's the potential of it? And that's what keeps me interested. And like I said before, so when I graduated, I worked at Paul Smith for 3 years as a t-shirt and textile designer. So that was a really good experience. I learned a lot about the fashion industry and printing onto fabric, and just that t-shirts are really fascinating because they're like tribal. I don't know how many of you got a t-shirt on today, but it's almost like what you can't see your t-shirt. Other people can. It's tribal. You're trying to tell people you're in this like gang or club, and so being a t-shirt designer was really interesting because I was like in this stuff all the time. It's like, I've got to design this t-shirt. Obviously, within fashion, it has to be a particular theme. But carrying on from that, and then being an illustrator, I'm still really interested in t-shirts and just I don't know. Like I did this recently. This was like a T-shirt for like the fact that it's like the Velvet Underground, you know.
Right.
But you know that's kind of funny because it's like fabric, isn't it? I can do this with it, you know. It's like whereas you know that or like this that like that's this is on a piece of you can't really do that, and that's that's what keeps it exciting is what you apply it to.
Yeah, absolutely. And the fact that it can be done quite easily as well, I think that's nice to see that you've embraced that in your portfolio because it can be done. You're not restricting yourself just to JPEGs and Tumblr posts, but you're making things physical.
Exactly. Also, as I said, I'm just someone who, I'm like when you illustrate, you're just a pen for hire. So I'll draw anything. It's not like I'm snobbish about it. I mean, there's obviously certain people I wouldn't want to work with because ethically I wouldn't believe in them. But it's like that's what's kind of interesting is my own practice, and my own ideas. But as an illustrator, you're kind of working. You're there to visualise other people's ideas, and that could be quite a fulfilling and interesting experience.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We're getting towards the end now, but I wanted to ask you, in terms of advice, is there anything, and I know maybe it's a bit of a obvious question, but like, what advice would you give to a student in the first year in 2015 on an illustration course? What sort of things should they be doing?
Well, I think they need to draw more than they've ever drawn in their life before, and they've got to do that for the next 3 years. Because the only thing with illustration is that which is brilliant, but it's become the hot thing to do really in a way. And I'm sure you can see that, Matt, that a lot of people want to do it because it's really people like drawing. So why should you make money from drawing? Basically, what that means is that it like all aspects of the creative industry, it's incredibly competitive. I graduated 20 years ago, but I still got to take my portfolio out there. I've still got to contact people, and that's me doing it. But obviously there's people who graduated last year and the year before that. There's all you lovely first years, and in another couple of years you're going to be graduating. So it's competitive, but there's loads of work out there. But what I mean is you just need to work really hard. And I know it just sounds ridiculous or really easy, but if you don't put the time in, then it's not going to work basically. But in theory, you're studying illustration, you want to be there, so you're going to be drawing the things you want to do. But also, regardless of all that, is that just enjoy being a creative person. That's the most important thing. It's like that's what I'm saying. For me, what we're just talking about is having my own drawing practice, and I can do that whenever I want, and then trying to make money. And just don't take everything too seriously. I don't. I'm just someone who draws pictures. I'm a pen for hire, and that's about it really. And life is really interesting as well, isn't it? All that other stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Making bread, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Falcons. And various birds of prey.
Yeah, falcons. Get a falcon or something like that. Hobbies are good. Hobbies, like I don't know. I don't collect stamps, but that's pretty cool, isn't it?
Anyone got any questions for Marcus?
Yeah. Anything?
You answered my question.
They've been answered. Questions have been answered. What are you doing? What are you doing tonight?
Well, I think I'll be taking it easy, basically. Nothing too exciting. I did see a really good Polish film last night, actually, which I would recommend. It's called Knife in the Water, and it was Roman Polanski's first film, and that was pretty good. Basically, I enjoyed that. But I'd imagine some delicious vegetarian food would be cooked tonight. What's everybody else up this? What is it? It's Tuesday night, isn't it?
Yeah, Tuesday night.
What's happening? Tuesday, big rave up. Everyone's raving.
They've got a week left to submission, I think. So.
Okay, right. Well, good luck, everybody, with your submission then. So they'll all be doing stuff tonight, won't they?
Yeah. But they'll be enjoying it.
Was that helpful?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Yeah, that's good. But the thing is as well, like it makes me feel really old that I graduated 20 years ago. But I was you once. I was a first year. And so was Matt. He was one once. And I don't know if you told. Well, did you tell it? I used to teach you a little bit, didn't I?
I mentioned it, yeah, but not properly,
No, that's great because that's 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Now look at you.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's on fire. He's on fire.
Thanks, Marcus. Hot pants.
So
Yeah.
that's it.
Cool, man. Well, we'll wrap it up there. I want to say thank you. Can we all give Marcus a clap and a thanks? Oh. I think we've got a question.
Okay.
Oh, right, yeah. No, thanks for reminding me. There's a question we always ask and I've forgotten it.
Right.
What's the difference between good illustration and great illustration?
And well, okay. Have people answered this question?
Yeah.
They have. All right.
They've had a go anyway.
Well, yeah, but it depends if you're looking at it or you're creating it. Who's like?
In your opinion, in your eyes.
Well, I think the way to look at it is that if I'm making work, it kind of, I always think you kind of feel like I'm the only illustrator artist in the world. So everything's good. So I mean, it's almost like you've got to forget that anybody else exists. So in theory, everything can be good, basically. But it's obviously it's like the same. Really briefly, it's like talking to anybody, and they say I can't draw. Well, they can draw. It's just that acceptance of what they've drawn is any good or not. But that's like epic, isn't it?
Yeah,
and it's
amazing.
And it's trying to understand that. So for me, like we just talked about, it's all those years of drawing, of accepting that. I think what is good and what is bad, it's all good to me. It's all good.
Right, that's great. Thank you, man.
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah. Well, thanks again, and enjoy your tea, and I'll be in touch. But thank you. All right.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.